good morning to one and all. On behalf of Parul Institute of Pharmacy, Parul University, I welcome you all in today's webinar on ABC of Research Paper Writing, which is going to be delivered by Dr. Mukesh Nandve, Associate Professor, DPSR University, Delhi. Before starting, I would like to introduce our today's speaker. Dr. Mukesh Nandve is Associate Professor in Department of Pharmacology at Delhi Pharmaceutical Sciences and Research University, New Delhi. Dr. Nandve earned his PhD in Pharmacology from AIIMS, Delhi, and received his postdoctoral training from the Division of Cardiothoracic Surgery, the Ohio State University Medical Center, Columbus, USA. For last more than 14 years, Dr. Nandve has been investigating the role of nutraceuticals, herbomineral formulations, plant extracts, and constituents for myocardial ischemia and reperfusion injury, diabetes, obesity, and pain management. He has published more than 65 papers in peer-reviewed national and international journals. His overall citations are now at 840 with an H-index of 18. His lab received more than 1.5 crore total funding from government as well as industry, which includes Farmers, Dabur, Charak, Sandu, etc. Dr. Nandve has received numerous awards including G. Achari Gold Medal by Indian Pharmacological Society, Association of Pharmaceutical Teachers of India Young Pharmacy Teacher of the Year Award, the Indus Foundation's Award for Research Excellence, Early Investigator Award by International Society for Heart Research, Professor Duggirala Visweswaran and Professor Sri Mantula Satyanarayan Prize, Best Research Output of the Year for 3 consecutive years of SVKM's and MIMS University. Dr. Nandve is a life member of various professional bodies which includes International Society for Heart Research, ISHR, International Academy of Cardiovascular Sciences, IACS, IPS, IPA, Association of Pharmacologists and Pharmacologists of India, APPI, Association of Pharmaceutical Teachers of India, APTI, and Society for Ethnopharmacology. With this brief introduction, now I invite Dr. Mukesh to deliver his talk and enlighten the audience. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, very good morning, Dr. Falguni, and all the audience from Parul University and outside Parul University. It's really great pleasure to be here, and for this, I'm really grateful to Dr. Falguni and authorities at Parul University for giving me this opportunity. And let me share my presentation so that it will be more clear what I wish to talk. So today I will be talking on some basics of research paper writing. I hope my slides are visible and I'm clearly audible. Can you, one
Yes,
of you,
sir.
please? Okay. So I know some of you might be already having so many papers, but this is for not only to the faculty, but this is also for the students from PG and PhD. Those intend to publish really good number of papers and quality of research papers. Now, through this talk, I'll be touching upon the need of publication. Now, what are the things involved in writing the quality of manuscript? Few steps involved in. Then, if you get a good news that your manuscript is accepted with the revision, that may be minor or major, how you should respond to reviewers and to the editor. And what are the ethical issues? See, when you publish a good paper, you gain a lot. But when you malpractice while publishing it, you lose a lot, at least outside India. There are still not stringent rules in India on scientific misconduct. But yes, people are getting what you call more and more information. They are sensitized now on scientific and publication misconduct. And then at the end, well, we conclude that what are the things required to get accepted as far as the research publication. Now, you may be having that is it really required to publish, or is it okay if we don't publish it? Okay. So for this to clarify, these are the few things why you should publish. Okay. So first thing, to advance the knowledge in your area, in your field. Okay. So obviously research publication means you have done something new and that you have published it to convey that what you have done, and through your original research paper you want to help others who want to take that area, that concept to the next level. Okay, so basically you should publish to advance the knowledge. What kind of new scientific data? That is what we call original research, and that is published through original research paper. Then clinical finding. Okay, very simple example from the current times, that few use few people use the Ayurvedic formulation, polyherbal formulation. Maybe they combine the vitamin C and Ayurvedic formulation, and then they notice that they could recover from the COVID symptoms without progressing into the moderate or severe infection. So, such patients, such scientific personnel or clinicians can report this finding as a case report. Okay, obviously they are case report, so you cannot accept as it is because that's your individual experience. Other people may experience different thing with the same formulation. So that is the limitation of case report. Now, interpretation of existing knowledge, which you do through review article. Now, on particular topic, what are the things already happen or carried out? You compile the complete literature, scientific literature, read it, interpret it, and give your own thought because you are already experienced in that area. That is what we call review article. So the first and most important reason why you should publish is to advance the knowledge of you and your scientific community. Second thing, or second objective of publishing the research paper is to advance your institution. Of course, as you are in a pharmacy institute, I am in the pharmacy institute, we have NBA, we have NAC, we have NIRF ranking. Okay, so NIRF ranking, earlier we as an organization used to submit the publication and review article research paper data to the AICT, but now AICT takes these inputs from third party, and then how many papers maybe Parul University publish, how many Dipsuru publish, how many Jamia Hamdard publish, they can get the information from this databases and various search engines. So ranking number 1, 2, 3 or first 10, first 5 is based on publications your interaction with the outside world, then what are the consultancies and research projects your institute got? So that is the prestige, that is the ranking, okay? And then when you publish consistently good number of papers in a good journal and translational research, then you get more chance or more opportunity for funding from maybe private or government agencies. Okay, and the third reason is the individual to advance yourself. So obviously, if you see the from associate to professor promotion, okay, you require certain number of papers. You require guidance, PhD guidance to certain number of students. You require number of years of experience. Okay, so publications also help you to build your CV, then enhance your profile. Okay, so if you want to, for example, if I want to organize a conference in a cardiovascular sciences, or maybe in a neurosciences, maybe in a novel drug delivery system, or a QBD, okay, so you will only invite people as your research uh, person or maybe speaker or experts, those consistently work in that area, or they're publishing continuously consistently good amount of and good quality of papers, so that helps you to build your profile. Okay, that uh, increase your reputation, build your reputation. And third, that is increasing your research ability. In short, practice makes man perfect. But let me correct it little bit. Right practice makes man perfect. Okay. So when you work in that particular area and you build concept on concept, project on project, publish it in a good papers, you develop expertise in that. Okay. And these are the few reasons to publish. Now, this is the vicious cycle. Okay. So if we start from here, okay, maybe the basic scientist or maybe the clinician doctor, okay, if they publish a good amount of papers or good quality of papers in a journals, okay, and then they get a chance or they uh, improve their chances to fund from the private or government, okay. And obviously when you write a good papers, you also write a good grants, and based on that your chances of getting funding from the funding bodies again improves. Now when you get the improved funding, okay, or you continuously get funded, what will happen? You will carry out the research. When you carry out the research, you will generate the data, and if you generate the data, you will publish it. Okay, but what happens many times, number of like amount of data that is published is less and amount of unpublished data is more. Why? Because few people are not sufficiently motivated to publish it. Okay, but let me tell you in a single line, not publish, that means not done. Okay, in a simple, not written means not done. In a similar manner, not published means not done. Okay, but then you may have another point. In fact, yesterday I was only going through one Nobel laureate's what you call opinion or kind of video on YouTube, and how different Nobel laureates put up the point that publishing in a journal is not always important. The impactful research, quality research, is more important. Okay, and one of the example I want to quote, that the lady who got the Nobel Prize for artemisinin discovery from the China. Okay, so she never published the research paper in a Cell, Nature, what you call PNAS, okay, not in a clinical investigation, journal of clinical investigation. These are the few journals of really top, maybe top 5 journals, okay, or Lancet, but still she got the Nobel Prize, Okay, why? Because her discovery was very impactful. Why? Because there are so many people uh, died because of malaria, and on other side, the chloroquine, the most cornerstone therapy, started developing the resistance to the majority of the people. Okay, and in such situation, the artemisinin discovery is really important, life-saving, impactful, societal impact. Okay, so that is what I mean. So both the things are required, but yes, as far as in India, majority of the, in fact outside India also, majority of the people think that good papers, quality research papers, research. Okay, it's not always true, there are exceptions as well. Okay, now what publisher wants, obviously, when you decide that you want to publish it, then obviously you have to go to publisher. Okay, and then editor. So what publisher wants, these are the, on left side you have wanted and not wanted. Okay, so simple, what is wanted, let us focus on a positive, that originality. Okay, not me too kind of research. Then your piece of work that may be small, okay, but that should lead to some significant advance in the field. Okay, then appropriate methods and conclusions are reported in your research paper or manuscript. Readability, that should, your research paper should tell a good, what you call, connected story. Okay, and then studies that meet ethical standards. Okay, if n is equal to 6 is required for statistical analysis, and if you use n is equal to 3, then that is not what you call acceptable. Okay, or you treated animals very inhumanly, okay, unethically. Okay, then that is again not acceptable. So these are the few things wanted by publisher for quality of paper. And what is not wanted, duplication, reports of no scientific interest, workout of debt, inappropriate methods and conclusion, and studies with insufficient data. Okay, now you have to ask, okay, so you got to know that what publisher wants. Now if you want to check, if you want to check whatever you have, the data or the manuscript, you should ask these questions. Have you done something new and interesting? Have you checked the latest results in the field? Have the findings been verified? Have the appropriate controls been performed? Do your finding tells a nice story or is a story incomplete? Is the work directly related to a current hot topic? Have you provided solutions to any difficult problems? If if all answers to all questions is yes, then start preparing your manuscript. Okay. Now the second point, have you checked the latest results in the field? What I mean, for example, if you want to, if you have data of maybe Agaritica indica, that's a neem. Okay, so neem plant extract is studied by you in diabetic model. Okay, now you may feel that I have done really novel work. Okay, but if you check the scientific papers literature, then you will see so many papers which have reported that neem is anti-diabetic through so and so mechanism. These are the principal constituents responsible for anti-diabetic effect, and this neem acts through this mechanism and produce the anti-diabetic effect. Okay, so in that case, your answer to second question may be no. Why? Because many people already publish on this your plant and in this dissertation. So your results are not novel or not latest in this field. So you cannot publish. Okay? Yeah, there are so many what you call false journals or what you call paid journals with 1,000 rupee, 1,500 rupee. You can publish it, but yes, not in a good quality or journals. Okay? Now, once you are confirmed that yes, you answer to all the questions is yes, then start preparing the your quality manuscript. Okay, so let us talk about some preparations in. But before you start preparing, you must understand on which basis your paper get usually rejected. Okay, now there are many reasons. Okay, uh, there are so many reasons like why paper is rejected. The first and most important or common reason that subject. Okay, so this is the summary of what you call uh, reasons or maybe responses given by 85 editors of scientific and technical journals. Okay, this is a summary table of responses given by 85 editors of scientific and technical journals where they responded that subject is not suitable for the journal, and that is the main reason which is told by almost 63 editors that the major reason for rejection is the inappropriate scope of your manuscript and the scope of the journal. Okay, so what I mean, you have work on a medicinal plant, okay, and use the crude extract and studied its pharmacological effect. Okay, so that is not suitable for maybe your vertical molecular and cellular biochemistry journal. Okay, when you standardize it, isolate the phytoconstituent, quantify it, okay, and study the crude extract as well as the phytoconstituent in vitro, in models, various parameters, mechanisms, excuse me. In that case, you may go for Journal of Ethnopharmacology, okay, because that fits into the scope of the journal, okay. Then not timely means you have carried out the work in maybe 2010 or 2005 and you are communicating into 2021, okay, not required because so many things already happen in this area. Coverage, questionable significance, okay, questionable validity, too shallow or too exhaustive. So this numbers means how many people or how many editors believe out of 85 that the significance is the reason for rejection. Okay, so 55 out of 85 editors say that because there is a questionable significance, the paper is rejected. Okay, in a similar manner, based on the length, if the too long manuscript, then 26 out of 85 editors say that it can be rejected. Okay, then presentation, bad organization, ineffective expression, ineffective or unusable illustrations, or failure to follow style guide. Okay, so these are the various reasons for paper rejection. Now, what type of manuscript you want to publish? Okay, there are few types which you might be knowing, that full article, or you can say original article, then letters, rapid communications, short communications, review papers, and perspectives. Okay, so full article means complete from IMRAD form, like the introduction, title to the references and all the legends and everything. Okay, letters is yes, someone published the paper and you don't agree with their finding, so you write a letter to editor that this thing is limited or this is the limitation of the published paper in your journal, and this methods or this parameters should be in this manner. Okay, so you are also expert in that field, and that's why you are writing the letter to the editor. Okay, rapid communication, like something is really important and something is really remarkable finding and you want to quickly publish it, So you publish it through the rapid communication mode. Okay, shared communication, not a full paper, only results and short material methods and what you call discussion. Okay, review papers we already talked. Now, based on all this your data, you have to self-evaluate it. Okay, so is it sufficient for a full article, or are your results so thrilling that they need to be revealed as soon as possible so that you publish through the rapid communication? Okay, to help in this case, you have to ask your supervisor or your colleague for advice on manuscript type. Sometimes outsiders may see things more clearly than you. Why? Because you're very close to your research work, and that's why you get bias. Okay, you always feel that you have done a fantastic work or a lot of work, and you should publish a full article, or you have done really remarkable research, and that should be communicated as rapid communication. Okay, so the third opinion, or sometime outsider may think more clearly and give what you call a practical advice. Okay, now which type you have decided, now which journal. Okay, now as I said that aim and scope and the area of your manuscript is mismatched, and that is the major reason for rejection. And that's why which journal you should select to publish your manuscript, that deciding that is really important. Okay, aims can scope check journal websites and recent articles. What are the types of articles that journal publish, and who are the readers of that journal? What are the current hot topics? Go through the recent abstracts. Ask colleagues for advice. Okay, so to decide which journal, you can go through these various steps. Okay, and sometimes it is necessary to lower one sides or return to the lab or clinic to obtain more data. Okay, then consulting the guide for authors will save your time and the editors. Okay, because all editors hate wasting time on poorly prepared manuscript, and it is a sign of disrespect. And that's why without assigning or without sending your manuscript to review, straightforward editors can reject your manuscript. Okay, so formatting as per the journal takes a long time, preparing for that journal takes a long time. So it's better you give some more time in selecting a right journal so that you don't waste time in what you call getting rejection, and then again preparing your manuscript for another journal, communicating and waiting for the comments from the editor or the reviewers. Okay, then format, consult and apply the list of guidelines in the guide for authors. So almost all the journals clearly display or publish guide for authors on their website. Okay, so ensure that you use the correct layout, section length, stick to the word limit. If the abstract is to be only 200 words or 300 words, then please stick to the word limits. Okay, because these are what you call preventable mistakes. Okay, nomenclature, abbreviations, spelling, British versus American, then reference format, number and type of figures and tables and statistics. So ensure that you comply exactly as per the requirement of journal. Okay, then writing a quality manuscript, the second top point is article construction. So how you start preparing? So earlier what we talked, that what are the things you have to decide, like which type of article you want to publish, in which journal you want to publish, and what is the format of that journal to be published. Okay, now article structure is usually divided into two what you call major things. One, that is title, author, abstract keywords, and the second section, which is the what you call main section or main part of the manuscript, that is main text, and that should be into Emerald format. That is introduction, methods, results, and discussion. So many times journals combine the discussion and conclusion, and many journals separately ask for discussion and then derive the conclusion. Okay, but then by and large, the main text is divided into four sections. That is Emerald, introduction, methods, results, and discussion. Okay, so each has a distinct function. Now, what should be in introduction, what should be in a method, we'll talk in a coming slides. And then acknowledgements, references, supplementary material, that is always there. Now, let us talk section by section. Okay, so I'm trying to give the example like how should be the title and how you should avoid the title. Okay, okay, so good title should contain the fewest possible words that adequately describe the content of paper. Okay, and what are the do's and don'ts for a right title? Okay, so do that your title should convey the main finding of a research. It should be specific, not lengthy. It should be concise. It should be complete, not open end. And it should attract readers to compel them to read your paper. Okay, and how your title should not be. Okay, that use unnecessary jargon, use uncommon abbreviations, use ambiguous terms, use unnecessary details, and focus on part of the content only, not the complete title. Okay, so this is one example, the inappropriate title and appropriate title. Okay, so inappropriate title is on a top, that is slower processing is correlated with the higher levels of depressed mood, fatigue, lower verbal fluency, fewer words and digits recalled, and poorer recall of visual spatial information in multiple sclerosis patients or MS patients. Okay, so what are the problems here? It's very lengthy. Is so lengthy that when you start and ends your title, you forget what you where you started and what you started. Okay, MS abbreviation. MS can be anything. Okay, and so many detailing which is not required. So the same title can be appropriately written as relationship between information processing, depression, fatigue, and cognition in multiple sclerosis. So what your paper talks, the paper talks about the relation, okay, between information processing, depression, fatigue, and cognition. In which disease condition? Multiple sclerosis. So title is complete, title is clear and concise, and gives a complete relationship what or it's a indicative of what you want to talk in your full paper. Okay, then authors and affiliation. Okay, you you publish a good paper, and if you write a wrong or inconsistent name, your name or affiliation, then what will happen? Your Scopus, your Web of Science, okay, or Research ID, Orchid ID, okay, will miss your this paper. Okay, why? Because, for example, SK Gupta, SK Gupta can be Suraj Kumar Gupta, okay, or Suresh Kantilal Gupta, okay. So if there are chances of what you call very common abbreviations like SK Gupta, then it's better you write your complete name. Okay, why? Because that will exactly identify that this paper is of yours. Okay, not of Shantilal or Suresh or whatever other SK Gupta. Okay, or your paper will not be considered into their citations, or their papers will not be considered into your citations. Okay, so that is what can happen, and that is why you have to take the care. Be consistent with your spelling, full versus short, okay, names, and full versus short addresses. So for example, surname can be written as Perez Garcia, Perez, or Garcia. Middle initial used consistently or not at all. Okay, so if you don't want to use the K, that may be Kumar, Kishorilal, or Kantilal, don't use it. Okay, maybe the first name and last name, that is sufficient. And the first name, like a Dave and David. Appellation, Faculty of Medicine, and then sometimes you write a Faculty of Medical and Health Sciences. No, not appropriate. So be consistent while you write your name, your first name, surname, middle name, and affiliation. Okay, because over the period of time, when someone builds your profile, your third person sees your profile, that person should be very clear that this publication is of yours, not someone else. Okay, and that is what the importance of author and application affiliations. Now the next thing comes the abstract. Okay, so abstract uh, can be indicative, informative, and structured. Okay, indicative means you're describing like everything or outline or summary of your topic. Okay, and that is usually for review articles. Informative means uh, it is particularly in emerald structure but without section headings. And structured abstract means you write even in abstract introduction of the background, then material and methods, then results, conclusions, or okay, that is structured abstract. Okay, so structured abstracts is usually sometimes required by the journal and often used in medical journals. So check carefully which type fits the journal of your choice. Okay, abstract is again really important because it is your selling marketing strategy. If you write a good abstract that excites the reader, then obviously the person will read the full text. Okay, so the quality of an abstract will strongly influence the editor's decision. That good abstract should be precise and honest, can stand alone, uses no technical jargon, is brief and specific, and cites no reference. So basically, use your abstract to sell your article. Okay. Now, why few papers get a good number of citations, and why even good papers do not get the citations? Because abstract may be one of the reasons that abstract is not properly written. Okay. So abstract is your selling point. Keywords, again, like your name, like your affiliation, keywords are equally important. If someone wants to search a literature, maybe on a gliptins or DPP4 inhibitors, and if you have carried out the research on that topic, then your keywords should be in a such manner that in the search of that person, your article should catch. Okay, so keywords are important for indexing. And one thing really important, whatever the words you have already in the title, they should not be into the your keywords. Why? Because title is also used for indexing and keywords are also used for indexing. So don't lose the opportunity by repeating the words from the title into the keywords. Okay, so you use the separate keywords apart from what you have mentioned into the what you call title. So keywords should be specific, avoid uncommon abbreviations and general terms. So few example, the paper is failure to replicate the association between NRG1 and schizophrenia using Japanese large sample. Now keywords, schizophrenia, then new Regulin 1 association study, false positive, linkage, disequilibrium. These are the appropriate keywords. And bad keywords, psychiatric disorder. It's a very broad term. NRG1 is an abbreviation. Uh, uh, I may not knowing what is NRG1 or NRG1 can be anything. LD, SNP, Japanese large sample, association. Association is just English term. Okay. So This is what the appropriate and inappropriate. Now, introduction. So, provide the necessary background information to put your work into the context. It should be clear from the introduction, like why current work was performed. Okay, and that should be indicated through your aims and significance. What has been done before and what was done? What was achieved in brief terms? So this is what you should clearly mention in your introduction section. Okay, so these are the few do's and don'ts for writing the introduction or introduction section. Ensure that word limit. Okay, set the scene. Okay, so obviously uh, before you actually tell the climax, you have to uh, create an enthusiasm in a mind of reader. Okay, outline the problem and hypothesis. So what is the problem and through what approach you want to solve it or address it? Cite balance, up to date and relevant literature, and define any non-standard abbreviation or jargon. Okay, so these are the do's. And don't write, uh, cite disproportionately your own work, work of colleagues, or work that supports your finding while ignoring the contradictory studies or work by competitors. Okay, describe methods, results, or conclusion other than outline what was done and achieved in the final paragraph, or use terms like a novel or for the first time. Okay, so if you uh, exaggerate that uh, you have done your work first time and it's really remarkable, then that is not appropriate. Okay, so these are the do's and don'ts in introduction. Now this is one example that how you should write your introduction. So here, this is the paper published in BBRC, that is Biochemical and Biophysical Research Communications. The title of the paper is Essential Roles of Caspases and Their Upstream Regulators in Rotenone-Induced Apoptosis. So what you should write in introduction, that rotenone is a naturally occurring plant compound derived from the root and bark of some leguminosae species. Administration of protein has been shown to lead to biochemical, anatomical, and behavioral symptoms resembling Parkinson's disease due to neurotoxicity. And you have cited this 1 to 3rd reference. Now, what is done in previous studies? So, previous studies have shown that so and so. Now, however, other studies contradict these findings. So, you have mentioned here what is in line of the hypothesis and what is against the hypothesis or not supporting the findings. Now, understanding the exact mode of action of rotenone should provide additional useful information towards its possible application in oral cancer treatment. Okay, so that is what you mentioned, need. And then what we have done exactly in this paper that you are mentioning. So this is the example of a right introduction. Very short and crisp, but everything is put up in a right context. Okay, so this is what the introduction. Now methods. So method section must provide sufficient information so that knowledgeable reader can reproduce the experiment. Okay, so I told you that why you should publish. You should publish the advancement of the scientific research. Okay, now obviously if I read someone's paper and interested to carry out the same study, okay, with the certain parameters, then precise introduction, precise explanation of the description of the methodology or the procedure will help me to reproduce the result. Okay, so list of suppliers of reagents, manufacturers of equipment, define apparatus in a familiar terms. Okay, so these are the few examples, like using an AD340C plate reader. In bracket, you have wrote wrote the what you call make of the instrument, that is from Beckman Coulter. You can also write using a plate reader. Beckman Coulter model is AD340C, but not using Beckman Coulter AD340C. Okay, so that is what. So Beckman Coulter can be anything. Okay, I mean that's a very good company, manufactures so many instruments and equipments. Okay, so unless the guide for author states otherwise, use the past tense. The present tense is usually only used in methodology type papers. Okay, those papers which publish as a protocol. Okay, will mention the present tense. Okay, otherwise always use the past tense. Then the result, which is the backbone of your research paper. Okay, so use figures and tables to summarize the data, show the results of statistical analysis, and compare like with like. Okay, and what you should not do, duplicate data among tables, figures, and text. So you're telling the same thing or same data in tables, figures, graphs, as well as described in text as well. Use graphics to illustrate the data that can be easily summarized with the text. Okay, so let me give some examples. Figures and tables are most effective way to present the results, but caption should be able to stand alone. Okay, what I mean stand alone, even though you don't have the access to the complete paper, but if you can see the paper diagram or a figure, okay, the figure should be like for what parameter that figure or that data is presented, whether there is a significance, what are the different study groups, how many animals in each study group, okay, and what is the interpretation of that data, and what are the values, what is the scale on a x-axis or y-axis. Okay, so that should be the standalone. Your caption should be written in a such manner that without reading the complete paper, only your graphic or figure or table can tell what is all about. Okay, the data represented should be easy to interpret, and color should be only used when necessary. Okay, now this is one example. So much information. Okay, habitat, woodland, wetland, grassland, depth, color codes, color notations. Okay, so much information. Okay, but illustration should only use to present the essential data. Okay, so this complete information can be conveyed in a single or maybe two lines. Okay, so the information present in this table can be presented in a one sentence, that surface soils were dark grayish brown, grading to light olive brown, that is at a woodland, light olive brown at wetland, and pale olive at grassland at 100 centimeters. Okay, so much information can be summarized into one sentence. Okay, that is what can be possible. So not always figures and tables are advisable. Now graphics. Okay, so figures and tables show the same information, but a table is more direct and clear. Okay, now here on this bar graph, different bars, then different colors and different groups. So much complicated. Now here you can simplify the presentation through the table. Okay, so in this situation, to present this data, table is appropriate. Now statistics. Okay, always give importance to statistics. Okay, so indicate the statistical stage used with all relevant parameters like mean plus SD. Give numerator and denominators with percentage, use means and standard deviations to report normally distributed data, use medians and interpercentile ranges to report the skewed data, and report p-values. Okay. Then the word significant should only be used when there is a statistical significant difference. Okay. Not insignificant or not partially or uh, what you call partly. Okay. Significant, that means statistically significant. Now, discussion section. You have to describe the in a discussion section how results related to the study's aims and hypothesis, how the findings related to those other studies, and all possible interpretations of your findings, and what are the possible limitations of the study. Now, avoid the grand statements. Okay. Example, this novel treatment will massively reduce the prevalence of malaria in third world. Okay. You have studied the plant and its extract and showed that it is what you call inhibiting the malarial parasite growth. Okay. That's a very principal proof of concept. And based on that principal proof of concept, you are making a huge statement, which should be strictly avoided. Now, this is the example of discussion that in the present study, that is what you have done. And then what is other suggested and what is the contradictory or in support or against, and what is what you call key finding. Okay. And what is its meaning. So that is what the right discussion. Now, conclusion, put your study into context, describe how it represents an advance in the field, suggest the future experiments, but avoid repetition of other sections. Means you have already stated some statement into the introduction section, and exactly same statement you're copying and pasting into the conclusion. No. Avoid being overly speculative and don't overemphasize the impact of your study. So you have to only conclude on the basis of what you have done. Okay, not what can be done or what is not done. Okay, this is what the conclusion. So in summary, there is a need to establish dose-dependent effect of EPA and DHA. Findings from the present study are in general accordance with the previous study that suggests so and so. So in this way, you have to write your conclusion. Okay. Then okay. References. Check the guide for authors for correct information. Okay. And correct format, whether Howard style or Wanker style. So you have to exactly put your references as per the journal's requirement. So check the spelling of author names, punctuation, number of authors to include before using et al. And reference style. Okay. Avoid including the personal communications, unpublished observations, submitted manuscripts which are not yet published, citing articles published only in the local language, or excessive self-citation or journal self-citation. Okay. Then references should be like you already know it. EndNote is already there. Then supplementary material. Yes, you can provide this kind of data, which is of secondary importance. But if you want to publish, like someone want to what you call repeat the experiment, then that your supplementary data should help others to repeat the experiment. Now, writing a quality manuscript. Now, we talked about what are the sections and how each section should be. Okay. Now, language of manuscript is equally important. Okay, and you might have noticed in the table that where the 85 editors responded that language is equally important. So, quality of research findings published through the poor language is not accepted, or it is published in a substandard journal. Okay, so language is equally important. So, journal editors overloaded with the quality manuscripts may make decisions on manuscripts based on formal criteria like grammar, spelling. Don't get rejected for avoidable mistakes. Make sure your manuscript looks perfect. So both science and language need to be sound. And the three C's that your good writing should be having the clarity, conciseness, and correctness. These are the three C's of good writing. Then understand few enemies which can give you the rejection: repetition, redundancy, ambiguity, and exaggeration. Now, repetition, that don't copy from the other sections as it is. Okay? Then avoid the words with the same meaning. For example, in addition, sections were also stained with. So here, in addition and also are repeated and having the same meaning. After centrifugation, pellets were then resuspended. No. So that is what repetition and redundancy. Ambiguity, like using, ensure the correct use of which, commas, and hyphens. So example, calcium regulated transcription has a different meaning from calcium hyphen regulated transcription. Okay. Then in to identify biomarkers of prostate cancer, we perform microarray analysis using custom cDNA arrays. So in this sentence, the second comma is not required or can be deleted. Then, okay, but this is another example of ambiguity, that in data were normalized to the internal reference housekeeping gene acting which showed. The which is used incorrectly, referring to actin rather than to the normalization of data. Okay, so correct should be data were normalized to the internal reference housekeeping gene actin and revealing that. So this is what the use of which. Now exaggeration. Okay, based on this graph, there was a massive decrease in number of tumors following per oral administration of green tea. Okay, don't exaggerate. Better you indicate the significance. So this p-value less than 0.05 itself is sufficient to indicate that there was a significant, statistically significant difference. Okay, don't use this exaggerating terms. Now these are the some common traps. Okay, so inconsistent tense. Don't mix tenses in the same sentence. Like before tumors were microdissected, epithelial cells are. Okay, inconsistent use of plural and singular. In 8 patients, a biopsy from affected sites of head and neck was performed. Okay, now here the correct statement should be in 8 patients, biopsies from the affected sites of head and neck were performed. Okay, so biopsy is a singular. Okay, biopsies is a plural. Okay, so that is what the right statement. These are the few more examples, and as it is already 12:30, let me wrap up. So incorrect use of respectively also can be the common trap. Okay, for example, the proportions of various monocyte surface markers were 45%, 63%, and 73%, comma, respectively. Okay? It should be written as the proportions of monocytes positive for CD163, CD7, CD11A were 47, 45%, 63%, and 70% respectively. That means CD163%, 163 was 45, CD7 63, and CD11A 70%. So that is what corresponding or respectively. Then there are some language editing services. I don't want to endorse anything, but yes, if your manuscript is precious, then invest in professional editing services. And then writing quality manuscript, it also requires the technical details. What are the technical details? Layout, then length. So always stick to the length. Okay. So letter and short communication have a stricter limits on the length. For example, 3,000 words with no more than 5 illustrations. That is strictly mentioned by the guide for authors for that paper. So journal, so strictly adhere to their guidelines. Abbreviations. Okay, so ubiquitin proteasome system and ubiquitin proteasome system. Okay, so that is what the right. Okay, this is the right and this is not the right. Now understand the overview of peer review process. Now after writing, after compiling, after complying all the guidelines, okay, you have submitted your manuscript. Now paper is submitted, you will get the acknowledgement from the editorial office or the journal. Now initial decision will be received by the or given by the editor. It can be straightforward rejection because of earlier discussed reasons, or editor decide to review the manuscript and assign the reviewers. Sometimes you suggest the reviewers and editor will send to them. Okay, not always. Then reviewers accept to review the paper, and review is completed by the reviewers, and decision can be, or three type of decisions can be received by you: either minor or major revision, accept as it is, and reject. Okay, now this decision, okay, this decision will be sent, this decision will be, whatever decision will be conveyed to the author. Which decisions can be conveyed to the author? Revise, accept, or reject. Now if decision is to revise, then revision will be done by the author, will be further communicated to the editor, will be again sent to the editor or to the reviewers. If revision is checked, then you may get the decision reject or accept. Okay, so if it is accept, then paper is sent to publisher for what you call galley proof, formatting, okay, and then accepted. Now imagine this is the process. Now you have to communicate your manuscript, then you have to write a cover letter. The cover letter is a chance to speak to editor directly, and that is why you have to keep your cover letter brief but convey the particular importance of your manuscript to the journal and suggest which can be the potential reviewers. And simultaneously you can also what you call suggest who can be the competitors in your field. Means to whom your manuscript should be sent to the review, and to whom your manuscript should not be sent for the review. Okay, so this is your opportunity to convince the journal editor that they should publish your study, and that's why you should give sufficient time to write a good quality cover letter. Okay? Then it should include the editor name, address to the journal editor, not genre, not to the editor. If it's a maybe Peter Harris, okay, is the Dr. Peter Harris is the maybe the name of the editor. So to Dr. So and so, editor in chief of so and so journal. Okay. So in first sentence, provide the title, author list, and journal name. Briefly describe that what is your research area, track record, main finding of your research, and significance of your research, and confirm that this is the original piece of work, and confirm that there is no competing financial interest. And then revision and response to the reviewers. Okay, so this cartoon tells you that when you intend to publish a paper, you have to go through so many stages, so many hurdles. Okay, now when you surpass or go through and overcome all this process and hurdles, and finally you will get your paper accepted. Okay, now final checks. Yes, revision before submission can prevent the early rejection. Then you can take the opinion of your colleague. You can recheck what are the guides for authors, and then what you call have a final check. Okay, so final check is really important. Ensure that three C's are followed. Then post-referee revision, carefully study the reviewer's comment, prepare the detailed letter of response, respond to all the points, and even if you disagree with the reviewer, provide a polite, scientifically solid rebuttal rather than ignoring their comment. Provide page and line number where referring to revision made in the manuscript. For example, on page 23, line number maybe 3 from the top, you have incorporated the correction to your comment in response to your comment. So that should be your pinpoint, point-wise reply to your reviewer. Perform additional calculations, computations, experiments if required, and this usually serve to make the final paper stronger. State specifically what changes you have made to address the reviewer's comments. Okay, mention the page and numbers where changes have been made. Avoid repeating the same response over and over. Okay, then this is the one example of reverse comment and your reply. So it would also be good to acknowledge that sorry. Uh, it would also be good to acknowledge that geographic routing, as you describe it, is not a complete routing solution for wireless networks, except for applications that address a region rather than particular node. Routing between the nodes requires further machinery which detracts from the benefit of geographic routing, and which I don't believe you have made the practical. Okay? So authors reply, we agree, and will add an appropriate caveat. Note that data-centric storage, name-based exact match, and range queries for sense events. The storage and query processing mechanism natively address packet geographically without node to location database. So this is from maybe engineering point of view, reviewer comment and author's reply. Okay. Now accepting rejection. Okay. Believe me, don't take it personally, because it's a time to what you call revisit your paper and understand why paper has been rejected. Evaluate honestly. Will your paper meet the journal's requirement with addition to more data, or is another journal is appropriate? Don't resubmit elsewhere without significant revision. Okay? Why? Because if this journal rejected, most likely the other journal will also reject it. Okay, why? Because editors are in contact with each other, or maybe the editor of the second journal will also send the your manuscript to the same reviewer. Why? Because editor also look into that who are the people working in this area, and maybe unfortunately the same reviewer can be assigned second time. And then in that case the reviewer will bluntly write to the editor that he or she already reviewed and rejected this paper when this paper was submitted in a first journal. Okay, and in that case you get a zero chance to accept your paper. Okay, now suggested strategy for submitting elsewhere. In your cover letter, declare that paper was rejected and name the journal. Include the referee's reports and show how each comment has been addressed. And explain why you are submitting the paper to this journal. Is it more appropriate journal? And this is how you should uh, strategize your resubmission to other journal. Now there are some ethical issues. Uh, Dr. Falguni, do you have maybe 5 minutes more?
Uh, Sir, we are running short of time.
Okay.
Try,
So
if possible, try to just summarize.
okay, no problem. So these are the few ethical issues. As I was only talking about the ABC of research paper writing, but let me touch upon a few ethical issues. Like unethical behavior include multiple submissions, redundant publications, plagiarism, data fabrication, falsification, then in improper use of human subjects and animals in research, and improper author contribution. So these are the few unethical behaviors that can earn the rejection and even a ban from publishing in the journal. Okay, so I will not go into the detail because that's need more time, and many of you are already aware about this malpractices or unethical publications. Okay, so don't do it because sometimes a person may lose the job. Okay, may be banned from the publishing into the journal. So plagiarism is very famous, and so you should avoid it. Okay, and there are different types of what you call plagiarisms, and these are the some unethical what you call practices in reported by many research papers. Then